So I'm Jerry Condon, you all know me. And along with Jim and Greg, the three of us do our best to keep this nuclear abolition working group coordinated, especially to organize these monthly meetings and get the word out. So thank you all for being here. So what we have for the agenda, we're going to start out in a minute with a go round. I want to hear from everybody here, just who you are and what you're up to. Take a couple minutes each. And then Helen Jacquard is going to give us a little presentation about Castle Bravo Day, the 71st anniversary tomorrow of the largest U.S. nuclear explosion, and what the Golden Rule is up to in Humboldt Bay this weekend, commemorating Nuclear Victims Remembrance Day. Then we have several other things on the agenda, including discussion about the convention, the VFP National Convention, and what kind of nuclear-related presentations we'd like to see there. Also, we actually have a webinar next Thursday, March 6th, that we're sponsoring and organizing. So that's on the agenda, how to do final outreach around that. Rachel has a proposal around Project 1030, which is the basically collection of wood ash and to try to measure the level of radiation that exists in various places around the U.S. I think that's also going on in Japan. And then we have some discussion about our nuclear posture review and how to respond to what this moment is, which is pretty interesting when you think about the fact that I know it's hard to believe anything that comes out of Trump's mouth, but he did recently suggest not only making peace with Russia, but getting together with Russia and China and cutting military budgets 50% and not building any new nuclear weapons. Well, wouldn't that be nice? I'm
Yes.
sure he's leading us down another primrose path, and he'll have something else to say soon. But at any rate, it's a moment. It's a very significant moment in terms of war and peace and nuclear weapons. So how do we best uh, take advantage of these opportunities? So that's kind of what's on our agenda. Anybody have anything else that's compelling? You can either add it now, or we're flexible and we can raise it later.
Well,
In the
I just think,
meantime,
I think, Jerry,
go ahead, Alice,
there's,
for the
the
agenda.
meeting of states parties is in New York this week
Yeah,
for the new ban treaty. There's all kinds
yes,
of events going on by Zoom. You can tune into the
yes,
UN by Zoom and watch the negotiations. And I can't
yeah.
a million things up. So,
Thank you. Thank you. I had that on my agenda, but I forgot to mention it.
okay.
But there's several events there that we want to basically be aware of. Rachel, you have something else
Yes,
for the
sir.
agenda?
Yes, I would like to have a one scheduled film viewing session with this group sometime in the future before National Convention.
Okay, so you have more information on that? You want it on the agenda?
Yes, I can add what this one is. This is
Uh,
TV special.
not right now.
Okay,
Just I'll put it right after 10:30, right after Project 1030, okay?
thank you.
Okie dokie then. Like I say, if things come up, we can add. We're very open here to wherever discussions take us. Um, but I'm gonna uh, ask Sam Coleman to introduce himself and say a few words about what he's up to. Not everybody here knows Sam. He's actually a longtime activist, but he's new to this nuclear abolition working group.
Thank you, Jerry. I'll try to be real quick here because we got a lot to cover. I'm a lifetime member of Orange County, California, Chapter 110, previously the coordinator for the Military Trauma Working Group before it folded. I'm in my last year of teaching in Asian Studies and Japanese at Cal State Long Beach, And as a Japan specialist, what I'm working on now is an in-depth analysis of the reasons for dropping the nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and getting a lot of cooperation from Japan specialist colleagues. It's really exciting. Other items that I have will fit into our discussion of the convention. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much for being here. Peter Barris, what's new on your end of things?
Oh, hi. Well, the DU working group, as we colloquially call it, has been all over the place. And I've jotted down a couple of notes. Chuck Searcy's group in Vietnam, demining, had 20 teams there. They were suddenly completely cut off. Something to do with a connection to USAID. John Wilkes says firefighters in North New Mexico were laid off. Kirtland Air Force Base is to take 10,000 deported people permanently. And Fort Bliss is to take 10,000 people temporarily. So I guess it's a staging area. In Vermont, the migrant legal assistance programs are gone. So that's not all of that is what we do, but it's part of what's going on. Hawaii and Sardinia are both contaminated with uranium remains from DU weapons quite heavily. And there are...
And I think everybody here knows when you say DU, you're talking about depleted uranium weapons,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, it's not so depleted. And the Uranium Film Festival is showing some films in both locations. That's all being worked on and scheduled and lined up. We've had visits from Kuhan Pike Mander, who is an amazing voice. She educates people on on the construction of an AI-powered grid around the planet, which is basically set up so that somebody with a mouse can just click on a square inch somewhere and have it obliterated. Let's see. Well, that's plenty. We're doing a lot of stuff that's very focused, producing documents on the myth of safety of DU and sending them to agencies and departments of health and so forth. I'll stop there.
Okay, great. Thanks for all that good work. Ellen Barfield, what are your thoughts and what are you up to these days?
Oh, sorry, I slighted
otherwise.
somebody. Rachel was with us too, and last week, and we're doing a lot of work with her. Thanks, sorry.
Okay, terrific.
Well, I will just say in a slightly snotty way, I've been doing anti-nuclear work longer than most of y'all. Been 40 years this year. Like right at exactly 40 years. My very first two arrests were at the Nevada nuclear weapons test site in March of 1985. So, and I'm delighted VFP is paying attention to nuclear weapons again, which it didn't for a long time. And I can't really get any explanation of why, but here we are again. I will be at some of the TPNW doings the next few days, and was delighted last year to be, or 2 years ago, whenever that was, to be with the Golden Rule folks, meeting with the wonderful Marshallese diplomat and the panel of other people we met with. All those things were wonderful. The struggle continues. It is grotesque, but not surprising that all the nuclear weapons countries are modernizing, developing new capabilities, which go beyond treaties, which are mostly dead anyway. And for the convention, there is a nuclear issues session, which includes Ian Zabarte, who is the principal man of the Western Shoshone, on whose land the nuclear weapons test site is. And of course, they don't much like that, and they've suffered from it for decades. And somebody or somebodies from New Mexico that Greg Corning is working out, and hopefully a Hibakusha although there aren't many of them left anymore, or maybe a descendant of a hibakusha. And I think it would be very cool if there were a Korean hibakusha, since, among other things, we are learning of all the tens of thousands of Koreans who died or were terribly injured, also in Hiroshima and Nagasaki as forced labor. But we'll see on that one. But anyway, that's happening, and it's good to be here, you all.
Okay, thank you for all that. Nelson Camp, you have a few
Yes.
words to share with us?
Well, I'm just delighted to be here and to hear what people are doing. It's very encouraging to me, and I think to anybody who cares about it, they'll understand. And I just hope the boat can continue another 300 or 400 years.
Yes. Helen, did you have anything to share prior to your presentation, or you want to say a couple of words now? And
No, I'm in Eureka, where the Golden Rule is, preparing. Well, the weekend of activities has already gotten well underway.
okay, well, we'll be hearing more about that in a few minutes. Thank you. Hi, Derek Cassidy. How are you doing? Where are you, by the way?
La Jolla down in San Diego.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And I've been 14 years the president of the La Jolla Democratic Club. I'm known as the Haley Selassie of Democratic Club presidents. My wife and I run the club and keeps us off the streets. We're also the founders of the San Diego Climate Mobilization Coalition, which is pushing to get the United States to have a World War II type of mobilization to switch America from fossil fuels to renewable wind, water, and solar energy. I'm a member of Veterans for Peace, and as a Veterans VFP member, I serve on the board of directors of the San Diego Peace Resource Center. My wife and I were first arrested in the nuclear freeze movement in 1982 when I was working in the California Senate. We went down to Livermore and got arrested. I think we were in custody for about 4 days, and with Daniel Ellsberg, and he gave us a wonderful talk. I'm also an atomic veteran. I'm a former naval officer, and my ship in '63 was assigned to go out and observe the blast of a hydrogen bomb, which was dropped from 30,000 feet about about 1,000 miles south of Pearl Harbor. 30,000 feet up, the bomb blew off. Our ship was down below, not directly under it, but I think we were kind of a guinea pig. I got cancer of the kidney as a result, and they took out one kidney, and so I'm okay. But there are not a lot of people who've ever seen a hydrogen bomb go off, and it was a hell of a show.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, you have a lot to share. Thanks for all your continuing good work. Alice, how about you?
Well,
Which one
I'm
do you-
here in, I just found out recently, Lenape land, Manhattan, which means place of many hills, Manhattan in New York City. It took me till I was like about 83 years old to find this house. So anyway, we're always learning. And, we have the UN here, and we have a meeting coming up. And I don't know. I think what the veterans do is great, just because you come with that cachet of being veterans. You have a lot more power to speak about these things. You get a better audience than most of us peaceniks, So it's wonderful being part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you've been a huge part of our work here for the last few years, including, of course, the Nuclear Posture Review, which you had so much to do with. So, and we're going to update that soon. Well, that's on the agenda. Hollis, I don't see you, but are you there? Can you hear us? You want to join us and say hello?
Hello,
Must be
everyone. Yes. Yeah, hello from Spokane, Washington, just a few hundred miles north of Hanford Reach, where the world's largest polluted nuclear area exists and how they're trying to cover it all up and try to ship the waste out right through Spokane. And we're trying to keep our city council abreast of that. We have an ordinance making Spokane a nuclear weapons free zone. They're trying to tweak it now to say you can't ship waste through here because Oregon already said they can't ship waste from Hanford through Oregon. So they're going to come up through Spokane and get it down to Utah and Texas. And we're saying, no, that's a really horrible idea. And we're also caught right over here next to the Idaho National Laboratory, where apparently, and yeah, I haven't checked in lately, but there's 52 small modular reactor experiments going on. They keep failing, so they have to keep figuring out what to do with the waste from the fails. But anyway, I wanted to tell you the big thing is we're in a coalition with the Washington Against Nuclear Weapons Coalition all over Washington State, and they are putting on, and we're trying to get a busload of kids to go there and demonstrate at Ground Zero. It's called Rebuilding the Anti-Nuclear Weapons Movement Together. They got room for 700 people over there, and so far they got 100 registrants. So if you're anywhere near Seattle on April 11 and 12, there's going to be this conference at the Methodist Church, and it's a huge church, and they got breakout sessions coming, they've got speakers coming, they got panels, and they got workshops. So then the next day on the 13th, we're all supposed to go up to Ground Zero and take part. And for some people, it'll be the first time they ever took part in a nonviolent direct action. And we don't know what that is yet. But no one wants to get arrested, my gosh. But we do want to make the statement. So anyway, I just want to let you know that John Arndt and Washington Against Nuclear Weapons Coalition.org.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Several of us are going. Helen and I are going to be there. I think there's going to be Helen will be speaking on behalf of the Golden Rule at one of the workshops. I'm working with Dan Gilman and Greater Seattle Veterans for Peace to host another workshop. I think Dan Shea is going to be coming up from Oregon. So it's a big deal. It has the national significance. So anybody who wants to take a trip to Seattle in mid-April would be a good time to do it.
What are the dates, Jerry, in April?
That's 11th and 12th is the conference put on by Washington Against Nuclear Weapons Coalition, Good Northwest Coalition, and Physicians for Social Responsibility is one of the key players there, I think, among others. Including Veterans for Peace. Okay, so Greg Corning, one of our committee coordinators. How are you doing, Greg? What do you have to share?
Doing all right. I'd just like to see if anybody wants to travel to, well, I guess you could call it Southern New Mexico in April. It's the 20th through the 26th is the shutdown drone warfare thing at Holloman Air Force Base, which is where they train most of the drone pilots. And this year it's going to be focused a lot on Palestine. And by the way, Toby Blomé had good things to say about Jerry helping out there. I think it was at Travis. Is that right?
Travis Air Force Base. There's a coalition in the Bay Area here, Northern California coalition called the People's Arms Embargo. So yeah, we protested at Travis last Sunday, which is also the the global day of action against to close bases. But we focused on weapons shipments to Gaza and also against the mass deportations in the U.S., and both of which Travis and other military are involved with. So thanks for bringing that up, Greg. What else you got?
Well, that's it. I just wanted to say.
Okay. All right, Rachel, your turn.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to add what Sam said, that he actually was one of the biggest contributor for the birth of Veterans for Peace Japan chapter, and I really appreciate what he's done for the people in Japan who wanted to emerge new chapter over there. And Alice Slater, if she didn't push my back, I wouldn't be doing the interpreter, so I owe her a lot too. And Hollis, you know that there is a big potato field where it used to be area where the scientists purposely spread the radioactive materials for as a kind of scientific tests. And that place became a potato field, and the produce have been shipped to Japan as a fast food French fries. It's been like this for decades. And people in Japan didn't know that they are eating radioactive potatoes came from where they developed the nuclear weapons dropped to Nagasaki. Okay, so my project now
Jeez.
is
Whoa.
That is
All
Annie.
right. And Rachel, you'll still be on the agenda later on for 10:30 and the film festival.
Oh, okay. So I don't have to mention it right now.
No.
Okay. So I'm going to after this meeting, I'm gonna back to my packing, and I'm driving down to New York City to support NGO people from Japan who attend the third member state party meeting of the TPNW. So I'll be there until 8th. I'm looking forward to meeting Alice and other New York people.
I'm homebound.
Well, we got two people left here, Jim Wilgemuth and Harvey Bennett, who happen to be the co-hosts of VFP Radio. And I know they've recently been interviewing some anti-nuclear activists. Harvey himself has got some interesting stories to share from the so-called Deterrent Summit. So, Harvey, I'll let you go first if you like.
Okay. Yeah, it was the Nuclear Deterrent Summit is it just is what it is. It's
Well, what is it exactly? What is it exactly for people who may not know?
This is like the 17th or 18th year. It's a annual conference put on by the National Nuclear Security Agency, which is the agency in the Department of Energy that is responsible for basically they have custody of the nuclear arsenal and its maintenance, but they're also in charge of the nuclear modernization project that President Obama approved after receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. Anyway, and their big projects, biggest ones are this huge Sentinel ICBM project to replace the Minuteman ICBMs, and that is scheduled for completion sometimes in the 2050s, and who knows if it will ever get done. The price on it just keeps going up, and a big part of that is this plutonium pit project, because even though we have tens of thousands of surplus plutonium pits at Pantex, the new warheads will require new plutonium pits. So, and the plutonium pit project, even at this stage, is projected to cost more than the entire Manhattan project in today's dollars. And I'm sure it will end up costing far more than that before it ever actually happens. So there were most of the presenters this year were basically contractors involved in these various components of this overall projects, and there were very few actual government folks. There were administrative types from the NNSA on the panels, but it was very different from last year when I attended, which had far more people from Pentagon and administrators from NNSA, also State Department people. So this year was much more of a corporate event than last year's. And Anthony Donovan was behind the protests that they were having this year, which we didn't really have much last year. So he wanted to have a stronger presence of anti-nuclear protests. And he had a pretty good turnout of folks from different anti-nuke movements. And we had a session the evening of the first day of the conference at Busboys and Poets in DC on K Street, and a good turnout for that. And Anthony was kind of the chair for that, and each of the people there.
Good. Well, we've got to keep moving, Harvey. Maybe we can share a little bit more
Yeah, I don't
about
want
that
to
later.
take that. We're just doing intros anyway. Anyway, the last two shows that we've done are basically focused on the conference. So I recommend anybody who hasn't listened to those do that.
And I put
It
that
looks like
link,
Jim's put the
link in the chat.
link to the SoundCloud in the and you have to actually, once you click on that link to SoundCloud, you need to also subscribe or register for SoundCloud in order to listen to that.
You can go to the podcast app too and listen to it.
Yeah. And you should be able to just scroll down, but I can put the link to both the specific shows with Greg Mello and Harvey and Anthony, and talk about that. And
Okay.
just let me add something that, I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? Because Greg Mello was talking about these new ICBMs, the Sentinels, that are going to be replacing the Minuteman ICBMs. Well, the new Sentinels don't fit in the silos. So who the hell is thinking over there? It just, they don't fit in the silos. So they're probably going to have to fit new silos. And Anthony says, well, they might be too heavy. They might be too heavy for these silos. So I just mentioned with a little bit of humor, what are you going to do? Fall into the magma? I mean, in the middle of the earth, for Christ's sake. I mean, just, what I learned here in sleepy Tennessee, which we do our best to ignore everything, and we're successful at it. And, it just, who is thinking out there? Who is in charge? And if Elon wants to cut something, this is a perfect place to cut. So anyway, let's get on with the agenda, Jerry.
Sure. Well, there was one other person with us a little earlier, McGregor Eddy. She couldn't speak, but she was listening to us because she was standing out in front of her congressperson's office with a sign that says "No bombs for Israel." And McGregor's also been organizing the vigil protests whenever the Minutemen rockets are fired off from Vandenberg towards the Marshall Islands. So she's doing some really good work there. And but she's and Alice, do you have something to share before we jump into the rest of the agenda? You're muted, Alice.
Very quickly, I'm like the word police. I don't think we should be talking about nuclear bomb-sized bombs compared to the hydrogen bomb as pits. They're not pits. It's their nuclear bombs, and they're the trigger for the hydrogen bomb. And the trigger for the hydrogen bomb is as big as the old nuclear bomb that did Hiroshima and Nagasaki in. So I think we shouldn't use their language when they call them pits. That's just my plea. Let's call them what they are, bombs. There's a new bomb factory going. Pit sounds all right, like fruit.
Okay. We will take that under consideration. The pits are bombs. Pits are actually nuclear
I mean,
bombs.
that's I keep calling them pits. They don't want you to know what they're doing.
Well, the people who are working on it call them pits, so I don't know. But at any rate, they're more than just pits. They're not like apricot pits. So, okay, I think we everybody got a word in, and now we're going to invite Helen Jacquard to give us a short presentation concerning tomorrow, March 1st, Castle Bravo Day, aka Nuclear Victims Remembrance Day, and how the Golden Rule anti-nuclear sailboat is commemorating those events this weekend in Humboldt Bay. Go ahead, Helen.
All right, thank you. I'm going to share my screen just because I've got a few pictures that might be fun to look at instead of just my face here. Okay. So I've been up to giving Rotary presentations today and getting set up for tomorrow. And so tomorrow we're going to be commemorating Nuclear Victims Remembrance Day, which started out as Castle Bravo Day because March 1st, 1954 was the date that the United States used its most powerful nuclear weapon. Wasn't designed to be that way. It was 2.5 times the yield it was supposed to be, 1,000 times bigger than the bomb that dropped on Hiroshima. Now, we've been interacting with Marshallese people for quite a long time, starting in 2016 when we were in, well, it might have been even 2015, when we were in Portland, Oregon, and were greeted by Kiana Judah Angelo, and she presented us with a Marshallese flag that day. And then in Hawaii, and then again along the Great Loop, and most recently in Tacoma, Washington. So we interact with the Marshallese people as often as we can. So there's the date that we received the Marshallese flag in Portland. And when we were on the Great Loop in Dubuque, Iowa, and the whole community came out, hundreds of people. And then this was when we met with the ambassador of the Marshall Islands to the United Nations. And I throw this in there simply because Ruin It Dome, which this is, contains the Castle Bravo debris as well as debris from the Nevada test site. And as you can see, it's cracking, grass is growing within the cracks, and it's releasing radiation into the sea as though it maybe not have been all along. This is when we were in Dubuque, Iowa, and the people greeted us. So we've got a lot of plans in Humboldt Bay here. Tomorrow I'll be giving a talk about Nuclear Victims Remembrance Day. Now this is, it's not just going to be about the Castle Bravo nuclear test. This is going to be about victims of all the radiation experiments. So it's the Trinity test in New Mexico and the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as well as the nuclear tests from all the nuclear tests, not just in the Marshall Islands, but we need to remember that 192 or 3 nuclear weapons were used by the French in what's now called French Polynesia, as well as from the very beginning, the Navajo and Lakota Sioux and many, many others that are the victims of radiation poisoning from uranium mining and fighting against the new uranium mine 6 miles from the Grand Canyon. As well as the atomic veterans that either witnessed atomic blasts or were part of the cleanup crew in the Marshall Islands to create the Runit Dome, as well as the people that suffered from Project 4.1 human radiation experiments, which actually turns out also happened not just in the Marshall Islands, but in California. And there's people that have been exposed to radiation in other places as well. So we need to remember all of the nuclear victims. We're having a film festival on Sunday to talk about the one of our crew members that went from Hawaii to California as a filmmaker. So we'll have the world premiere of his film that was filmed during that time. There is an interview that was done with Captain Kiko along the Great Loop, and that'll be shown. And then we have at least 3 crew members that crewed up in the Pacific Northwest with us. And we're going to do storytelling and picture showing after that. So we've got a really big day scheduled for Sunday. We're working on seeing whether or not it makes sense to go to San Francisco Bay. If so, for how long and where do we want to stop? So that's kind of what the golden rule is up to. And I actually feel like we need to continue to look at the entire uranium pathway and work, like we did on our NPR, right? Eliminate the rationale for nuclear weapons and help people understand we don't have to have these things. And I'm wondering, maybe Trump understands that. And we need to also remember the victims of depleted uranium weapons. Now, the International Uranium Film Festival this coming season is going to be having a film festival in Sardinia, Italy, where Jerry and I visited for a month and learned about the depleted uranium and other chemical contamination there, because they're a one-stop shop for military weapons testing. And then they're also going to be going to Hawaii, where there's another at least 2 places where depleted uranium's been used there. It's been really interesting to see what's been going on with our depleted uranium cluster bombs and landmines working group, because they've been so good about this and talked about so many different places where depleted uranium has been used. So I'm really fired up about this this weekend and the upcoming events in April up in Seattle, in September in Sardinia, and just seeing what kind of good trouble we can get into. Thank you very much.
Helen, you're also coming up on 10th anniversary of the Golden Rule, the rebuilt, restored Golden Rule splashing down in Humboldt Bay in June of 20, what was the year?
So she went into the water after the rebuild June 20th, 2015, and we're going to have a huge celebration June 14th at the same place we splashed in before, and we're going to splash in again, which means that we've got a specific time of 4 p.m., which is high tide. That's the only time that day when we can get into the water from Leroy's boatyard. So
This is going to be June 15th?
June 14th, Saturday, June 14th.
Okay. Well, we encourage anybody who can make it all the way to Humboldt Bay on June 14th to join us for that celebration. Anybody have any questions or comments for Helen before we move on? Jim's giving you applause. I applaud you too. Thanks for all your amazing work, Helen.
Yes. My pleasure.
So there's a lot going on this very week, and a couple of those things are on our agenda. And one of them is, well, the third meeting of the states parties to the TPNW. And according to ICANN, I was just on their website earlier today, we have 94 countries that have signed on to the treaty and 73 of which have ratified it, meaning more than half the world's states are now on board. So this is an important, it's always important. They did these annual states parties meetings or occasions where a lot of people, a lot of advocates for nuclear abolition gather to give support to that meeting, to have other events, to attend some of the formal events. Warheads the Windmills has a couple events, hybrid events planned for this coming week, including Wednesday and Friday. And I put a link in the chat to those events. The one on Wednesday has to do with, I guess, the reintroduction of the Eleanor Holmes Norton bill. And maybe Ellen might want to tell us more about that. Are you familiar with that bill and its progress, Ellen or Alice?
Oh, I'm certainly familiar with it, but not specifically right now.
Okay.
Been
Anything
around
more
for a
to
long
that?
time. Let's push it again.
Yeah. So anyway, lots going on. And the other thing that's going on this weekend, it's just kind of a coincidence of sorts that and it ended up in the same week, but our own webinar, the Nuclear Abolition Working Group, what we call the VFP No Nukes webinars that we have occasionally. We're having one next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And it's going to feature KJ No, Norman Solomon, and Ann Wright. And the focus is on how U.S. militarism could too easily lead us into a nuclear war. And those are three very knowledgeable speakers. We've done a pretty good job getting the word out for a while, far and wide, and we have a very nice ad, promotional ad. If you haven't seen it, it's on the bottom of the reminders for this meeting, lower in that email, so that we still have a week to do more publicity and more outreach. So I'll continue putting it out there on the various listservs, but anything you can do to share that in your own networks and encourage people to register for next Thursday would be much appreciated. Do you have something to say about that, Alice? You're muted.
I just wanted to go back to Eleanor Holmes Norton because I thought Ellen was going to talk about it. I just want to say very quickly that this keeps getting reintroduced, and it's a bill asking for abolition. They actually use the word abolition and take the funds for military to do a green economy, to use it to convert to green energy. And of course, Eleanor Holmes Norton is a congresswoman from Washington, D.C. She doesn't even have a vote. And I think we're up to about 8 sponsors, but it's something, if you're talking in any relationship with a member of Congress, that they should get on this bill and support it. Stop the nuclear, it's a very important bill. She's the only one since we lost Dennis Kucinich that's doing anything like this. Right.
And that's also being promoted by the Warheads the Windmill Coalition. In fact, it's even being referred to as the Warheads the Windmills bill, I've heard a couple of times, because it does talk about taking money out of nuclear weapons and putting it into sustainable energy, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's a very important bill to support. Derek, do you have something to say about that? Go ahead, please.
My question is, what is MSP?
Okay, that is means meeting of the states parties.
No, members.
In the chat, I put 3 MSP. That's the 3rd annual meeting of the states parties of the signatories to the Treaty of Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Am I wrong, Rachel?
No.
Member state parties.
Yeah, member state parties. Oh, it's members, not meeting?
Member state parties.
Okay, 3rd meeting of the members of the states parties. Okay.
Meeting of state parties? Alice, you verify.
Well, that's what it is. They meet. This is their 3rd meeting. all the parties that signed the ban treaty, you know, but they're now they're asking people to come and be observers, even if they didn't sign. Like Japan can't, the Japanese peace movement can't get Japan to come, you know. So, I mean, we should be asking our government to observe, and I think certain members of Congress are going to come this time to observe.
Great.
I hope that's right. Okay, next on the agenda, we're moving through most of our major items here, and 8 minutes before the hour. We won't go too long beyond an hour today, I don't think. But if we do, it'll be for good reason. Rachel, you've got a couple things, Project 1030, and also a film showing that you would like to promote. So you've got the floor.
Thank you. So I started Project 1030 last year, and it was too short notice. We were able to collect only 5 samples of wood ash from across the United States, which the result was very interesting. But in order to show that the entire nation is already radioactive, we need to collect more samples. And I think it's a good timing right now. People are closing their wood stoves and fireplaces. So I would like to have your support spreading the words that they can send me wood ash samples. Please allow me to add the Facebook page that I created. In this page, you will see more details and also documents that Peter helped me he made amazing document explaining what it is and also history of this country's nuclear issues. So it would be great if you can be, I would like to ask for this particular group's endorsement of this. That could be great kickoff to attract more environmental groups and VFB chapters to join this movement. And this campaign will end of May. Okay, so end of May I will close for 2025 Project 1030, and collectively I will send the samples to lab in Japan, and they will measure the radiation level, cesium-137. Why cesium-37? There's a good explanation written by Peter, so please read it. It will be fee involved. This is not for profit, but this is for the lab fee in Japan. So one sample, $50, and that would be donated to VFB National. So it is tax deductible for anyone who participates this project. All right? Any questions?
Okay, sounds good. Well, you're asking for endorsement from the Nuclear Abolition Working Group of Veterans for Peace for this Project 1030 to collect and examine the content of these wood ashes, looking for radiation measurements. Sounds like it's right in our ballpark. All in favor, say aye.
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 I
Aye.
Anybody opposed to that? Well, I think we just endorsed it, Rachel. And I have a suggestion for you, and that is to put that information in the chat of the webinar on next Thursday.
Next Thursday, I will be in New York City. I don't think I can participate this group. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I'll put it in then.
Or you can put it in. I'll be there.
Just make sure I have that. Because we'll probably have as many as a couple hundred people participating. So
those are in this group right now. If your chapter is interested in offering a co-sponsorship or endorsement, please consider it. Thank you.
Okay. And Sam, did you have something related?
Real quick question, Rachel. Information on where to make donations for that, because we don't have a fireplace for wood, but $50 could help somebody else send something in, right?
Yes, please. Thank you.
How would they do that, Rachel?
Yeah.
just donate to VFP National's regular donation box that make sure to indicate project is 1030. That's all. And
Good.
And send and make sure that Rachel knows that too, just in case she needs to remind the national staff.
yeah,
Yeah. So they don't go out drinking with it. Good idea.
Yeah.
thank you.
Right.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Rachel.
You.
Okay.
Thanks
And
so
then Rachel, you had another item.
Yes, yes. Thanks to support from Peter and also Professor Emeritus of Brown University, Steve Rabson. I finished translation and adding English subtitles to a documentary program, which was actually made for TV and broadcast in 2011. This particular program was made by Mr. Tetsuo Sekiguchi, former newscaster of Nagasaki Broadcasting System. He is now retired and a massive supporter of our speaking tour whenever we do events in Nagasaki. Anyway, this particular program is so interesting. It reveals the fact that during the Cold War, United military had a stockpile of nuclear weapons in Okinawa. Not only that, they had a nuclear weapon sortie stations across mainland Japan without notifying anybody in Japan. So, and that there was a secret agreement between Prime Minister Sato then and President Nixon. So that kind of a secret deal was revealed by this investigation. And if you overlap what was going on secretly during the time of Cold War, and right now there's a project called the Southwest Shift. So the western half of Japan is massively militarized right now. Huge construction boom is going on. Major roads have been widened and straightened up so that tanks and all military vehicles can go through. And civilian airports have been much more nicely expanded so that they can accommodate more fighter jets and all those military aircrafts. And the regular port has been also expanded so that they can accommodate bigger military vessels can dock. So that's what's going on all across, especially western part of Japan, including the remote islands of Okinawa. So,
Okay. And Rachel, are those things portrayed in the film? This is what the film's about?
the film is strictly about what was going on during the Cold War. But
Okay. And so when and how do we see this film?
thank you for asking. Right now, it's 4 different parts, 4 different segments, because of that they have to insert TV commercials. So I'm going to ask Chris Smiley to put all together the one single long film of 45 minutes.
Okay.
And I would ask to join my film viewing session one day prior to the convention. And I would ask a convention committee to show this film during the convention time. Maybe, evening cinema time that we always have, right, at the convention.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Terrific. Well, speaking of the convention, that's the next thing on the agenda here. And that convention is going to be, for the first time, as most of you know, for the first time in a few years, it's going to be an in-person convention. I think there might be some hybrid elements to it. I'm not, yes, Ellen says yes. You're on the convention committee, Ellen.
Yep.
And that's going to be in Las Vegas, of all places, and July, 25th to 27th, or something like
Correct.
that? You want to say more about that, Ellen?
Sure. Yes, it'll be in Vegas at the University of Las Vegas, so the lodging is very reasonable. And it's then because that's the only time that could take us. And it's wonderful for nuclear connections, as some of you heard in my check-in. We have Ian Zabarte from the Western Shoshone, on whose land the U.S. nuclear weapons test site is. 60 miles northwest of Vegas. And Greg Corning is in contact with excellent New Mexico folks who will be speaking. And we hope for a hibakusha or a descendant of a hibakusha. So that will be particular to our issues. But we're excited to have a face-to-face convention. But yes, it will have Zoom access also for those who can't physically be there. And it's coming together. There's a delegation heading out again in a few days. The XCOM went to Vegas before several months ago, and they're Michael and Susan and Paul, I believe, are going again to do some more physical scoping, and it's coming together. It will be, as Jerry said, the first one since Spokane in 2019, so it'll be a great reunion. Hope you can all come, and it's exciting that we're looking forward to it. Very brokenhearted, though, I have to say, that after Spokane and before COVID came along, the intention was to meet for a particular anniversary year for Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Albuquerque and New Mexico and Santa Fe and get to Los Alamos. All of those things were very appropriate for the time. And Ken Mayers, of course, would have been deeply involved in organizing that. Well, he's gone. And other New Mexico folks just didn't have the energy for it. So that can or won't happen, but it's sad. That would have been wonderful. Miss Ken, of course, tremendously, but sad to miss that opportunity too. And maybe we'll go there some other time.
At any rate, it sounds like there is going to be a strong anti-nuclear component
Yep.
to the
Oh, let me
convention.
say the theme is because of three important years. It's 80 years since Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the end of World War II, 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War, 40 years since the creation of VFP. So
That's
and
a lot
that's
of anniversaries coming
yes.
together there. Now,
Yep.
Rachel, you mentioned earlier that there are going to be a couple of visitors from Japan, and and you've been talking to Susan Schnall about that. She's aware of it. Ellen, also, you're kind of coordinated on who's arriving from Japan and how they might participate.
Well, originally I was asked Susan to look for a hibakusha who can come over and speak about his or her experience. And at that time, I had no information about the convention committee or whatsoever. Then anyway, I did my best to find one particular really interesting person. His name is Leon Cloder. Actually, he has an English name, but his real Japanese name is Kuroda Leon. Anyway, he went through that atrocity when he was 6 years old in Hiroshima, and he got involved with the anti-government movement while he was in the middle school, and he continued on until he graduated University of Tokyo, and after no corporations wanted to hire him because of his, activism. So he came to the United States and worked for a consulting firm. And after retirement, he went back to Japan, and he's been doing all the activism. So he has several very interesting video, and he has a vision. He has a very good, thorough knowledge of geopolitical things, what's going on currently, as well as all the historic, also, how do you say, the real essence that we talk about here about nuclear. So he is very in sync with VFP
So
philosophy.
Rachel, he'll be coming to the convention then. That's the plan, huh?
Yes, but we do have to raise, his transportation fee cost.
Okay. And then
Together with his wife.
Sam, you also had some questions or some input about the convention.
Yeah, and I'll be super fast about it because we're limited for time. But I just wanted to say that Rachel, I think, has unearthed a real gem. And I hope we can really scrape together the resources to bring Kuroda-san, Mr. Clouder here. Thanks so much, Rachel. Some of the ideas I have, I may be able to just communicate with Ellen. if in fact everyone finds that keynote speakers have fallen through, we, as a working group, would be wonderful if we could jump into the breach. Someone mentioned Kuhan Pike, and she's so impressive. She can really bring together the nuclear weapons element with the political economics of the legacy weapons manufacturers. Then something else too, for everybody, when they start selecting what movies to screen, I know we have hundreds of movies that are related to nuclear war and weapons production, but that ain't going to stop me from throwing in a couple of suggestions, things that you can see on your own, regardless of the convention. You may be familiar with them. 1983 made-for-television movie called The Day After. It brought Ronald Reagan
That
to
was
the
a big
negotiating table, and it was so elegantly done. And I wish we could get somebody, a group of producers, to update it. Okay. The other one is this, and then I'll be done on that one. Mothers of the Revolution. That documentary about British women who stopped the installation of nuclear cruise missiles in England. And by the way, Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 100% rating. And it is, you know something, it's also a feminist production. Those women were incredibly gutsy.
The
So,
women of the Greenham Common.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mothers
That'd
of
be
the
great.
Revolution. And what's
I didn't
nice
know
about it,
that film.
oh, you do, okay. What's nice about it is that unlike The Day After, it has a happy ending. That's
Where
it.
can you access that?
That's a good
How can
question.
we see that?
Now, The Day After is free. That's streaming.
I'm talking about Mothers of the Revolution. How do we look at that?
I'm trying to remember where I got it. I do
Okay,
believe
well, we'll look for
one of
it.
two things. Most definitely, it's either Netflix or Amazon Prime. And if you like,
Okay,
I can run through that real quickly and send that. I'm sorry I didn't
okay,
get that, but at least it's a major streaming service.
okay. Well, don't go there today. This is the don't buy anything day.
That's
Or was that
right.
yesterday?
Yeah, I ran
Alice,
out of milk.
Alice, what did you have?
I just want to put out something because we're all living in America until like the end of democracy and fascism and whatever the hell is going on. And I think Korea has set a fabulous example for us. Like about a month ago, their president declared martial law, and 100,000 people showed up at the Capitol, and they got rid of the guy, or they impeached him, or whatever. I mean, I just think we should be telling their story and supporting it, and like let them inspire us. And we didn't even know. I'm just learning that they were victims of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I didn't know so many Korean people suffered from it, so they certainly suffered from us. So,
Well, that's a good segue into the final thing we have on the agenda here, which is partially the nuclear posture review, the word that there's going to be one coming from the Trump administration. We've been talking about updating our own, and that kind of opens up a discussion about what's going on right now. Shall we take Trump seriously when he talks about cutting the military budget in half and building no more nuclear weapons?
he's going to put an
And even,
iron dome on.
and even if we don't take him seriously, the fact that those words came out of the mouth of the President of the United States seems to be an opportunity that the peace movement should take advantage of. So this is, I'm throwing it open to any ideas about how we take advantage of this moment and how we might use the updated nuclear posture review to intervene in this opportunity. Greg?
Yeah, well, first, Ellen's got a dangerous snake weaving its way around her face.
Oh, that's her own tail.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering how she grew it.
Just wanted to remind, I think people are, oh, good news. Sorry, good, I'll pet him. How the, just one facet to really, somebody here said this a couple meetings ago, but appeal to Trump's ego. I've been told by several sources that he really wants the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
So I wrote to the White House and said, President Trump, if you get rid of the atomic weapons, you'll be sure to get the Nuclear Peace Prize. That's
He will.
something to consider in whatever we do.
He was trying to get it with North Korea, and the Congress stopped him. He was making a deal that we would sign a peace treaty and we would stop doing nuclear war games on his border with South Korea, and we would end the sanctions on North Korea, and we'd remove 10,000 of our 38,000 troops that have been there since 1953. And the Congress would not let Trump do that. And then Kim Il-jung went and tested more missiles. You know, he was going to give him up for that. As a matter of fact, this is interesting. North Korea is the only nuclear country that voted at the UN when they were saying whether we should negotiate the new treaty for the prohibition of nuclear weapons, the ban treaty. The US and our allies, we were boycotting it, NATO and everybody. North Korea voted yes for negotiations. Did you see that on the front page of the New York Times? I mean, I wrote it up for The Nation in an article, but they're just waving their nukes around to get our attention to make peace, you know. So we should definitely appeal to Trump's ego if there's any hope.
Well, the Nuclear Posture Review that you were a major author of is about what, 3 years old now? But
Yeah, I don't think it's the right thing right now because, like,
our own
yeah.
Go ahead. Well, we've talked about updating it for a while. We got information about KJ No actually gave us some good information to update the China section, which is very skinny right now. And we could also be updating the information regarding Israel and Iran, and I think we could. It's still a very valuable document. It doesn't need a whole lot of updating, but just needs a little bit of updating. And I think if we can manage to update it and reissue it, it would be a valuable tool in this moment. But there may be other ideas for how we can appeal to Trump.
But if I could just say, you know, with Code Pink, we started to do a peace clock. Like, what are all the good steps we can take? We have some of that in the posture review. I think if we emphasize that, like, what are the positive things that are missing that's keeping us from moving forward? And I'm really, this doomsday talk, it's enough already. You know, like, we know that. We have to know what are we supposed to do that'll make it better? What are the opportunities?
Right.
Could I say, Alice, that a lot of young people don't know it? The last big anti-nuclear time was the 80s. A lot of them weren't even born yet. So a lot of people don't actually know it.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't know what in particular.
How dangerous it is.
Oh, yes.
That's one of our biggest problems.
They don't know about the near misses that have happened all through the Cold War. They don't know any of that.
Yeah. Well, that's one reason why War at the Windmills has the right idea in terms of addressing those two existential threats and linking them, because a lot of young activists are, in fact, pretty well tuned in to the climate crisis and some serious activism around that. And it'd be great to see, you know, the kind of energy that comes from young activists put into bringing an end to nuclear weapons in war as well. So anyway, we have a lot of educational work to do for sure.
Don't
and Alice,
discount
I'll follow up
ICANN. That's young activists, but not enough of them. Yes.
What?
Right.
Which one?
Don't discount ICANN. That is many of them quite young. Not enough of them. Not enough of us either.
Yeah. Well, when you say ICANN, are you referring to the international organization, or are you talking about some groups here in the U.S.?
Both, actually, but mainly the Nobel Prize winners from 2017. A lot of them are quite young. Just not enough of
Right.
them.
Okay. Well, how to reach them? So
Well,
anyway,
attend their
I
session
guess
tomorrow. That's what I'm going to do. That's one thing to do.
What's the
oh,
session
whose session?
tomorrow?
They're doing their day right before the TPNW meetings gathering that they do all the time.
Is it on Zoom?
ICANN.
I don't think so. I don't know though
Mhm.
for sure because I'm going physically.
Anyway, we look
Well,
forward to
check
hearing.
the ICANN calendar. You can go on. They're doing certain things during this 2 weeks of the meetings of state parties.
Yes.
And there's things you can tune in on Zoom with if you can't be in New York. You know.
Well, in the meantime, if everybody can take advantage of the next 6 days to promote the VFP No Nukes webinar, should be a really, really good one. Next Thursday, we all want to be there and bring a few of our families and friends with us. Um, and you have that information. I'll send that out again to the No Nukes group and beyond tonight. So you'll all have that available to share with others.
That's great. We need that, like an announcement to go out to all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think we had a pretty good meeting, and I think we're just about finished for today. It's not bad, about an hour and 15 minutes. Covered a heck of a lot of ground. And we got some good things in the works. Derek, go ahead.
Yeah,
Is this
just
your first meeting with us? I think you've been with us once before, haven't you?
yes. And I get all your emails, and I certainly appreciate everything you do, Jerry. Oh my gosh. And Alice, oh my gosh, I get Alice's emails. They're so wonderful.
Thank you.
Anyway, I just want to quickly suggest maybe at some point we could watch John Kennedy's 1963
Definitely.
peace speech. I don't know if any of you have seen it lately, but I saw it. Oh my God, this speech. So he advocated complete and general nuclear disarmament. He announced he was stopping nuclear testing in the atmosphere at that meeting of the American University, and he called for an end to nuclear weapons. And Lawrence Wilkerson, about a month ago, Lawrence Wilkerson, the chief of staff to General Powell, said that Kennedy was killed as a result of that speech.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it's just the speech is just, as those of you who've seen it recently know, I've watched it 3 times in the last 6 months, and it makes me realize what a different world we would have if that man had lived. And of course, Bobby too. But he is so articulate. He's so gentle. He's so sweet. He's so strong. He is devastating about nuclear weapons and disarmament and ending war. And I don't know a better thing to do than to watch that speech again.
We've done
There's a
several
whole group
radio
working
shows about
on
that
it.
speech.
There's a Kennedy Peace Speech group that's being organized. And Trump, the broken clock that's right twice a day, they would not let him declassify the 50-year-old Warren Commission report and the 20-year-old 911 report. That's still classified. We are not allowed to know what happened. There really is a deep state running things, you know. So we're in a breakthrough moment, however it's going to work out right now.
And Alice, you know, the Warren Commission report is out the window now because they found the second bullet. So the Warren Commission relies on the super bullet that's supposed to have gone through.
They went through Connolly and Kilkenny.
Yeah. And there's this guy, this Secret Service guy, who put the second bullet that he got off the limousine on the stretcher, the Kennedy
Right.
stretcher.
There's a book about it. I forgot the
Yeah,
name.
and some bad guy picked up the bullet and hid it. But finally, the Secret Service guy the other day said, "Oh, I just wanted to mention I found a secret bullet and I put it on the stretcher, and maybe some of you guys saw it." It just
Okay.
that just shot the Warren Commission report down.
There's a whole book
Interesting.
about it. I can't remember the name of it, but
Listen, we want to wrap up here. People need to get on with their Friday evenings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Rachel
This-
has to pack.
This is
Yeah.
a great, yeah,
Rachel
this is a
has to
great
pack.
meeting.
She's got to
You
go.
all are doing, you're all doing really excellent work, and thank you for coming together on a monthly basis to share it and to move it forward. So I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday at the VIP No Nukes webinar.
And
Thank you,
thank you,
Jerry.
Gary. You keep us together. You're great.
I try. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, see you all soon. We'll have a recording and minutes and a notice coming to you soon.
Great. Bye.